And me.
To your point, nobody needs to take any tips from Jordan Peterson on anything.
None? Like even like the like not letting liberals walk over you with like control of language and all that.
Well, yeah, the only good thing he ever did is how he became famous. Everything after that, it was a mess.
Oh, really? So you don't care about what he says about like the Bible?
He doesn't really understand it. I mean, he hasn't really very. He has some lectures that are okay, but the problem is, I'm not saying Jordan Peterson never says anything smart or useful. I'm
Hmm.
obviously exaggerating, but the problem is he hasn't read any new books in 30 years. You
Okay.
know, he talks about the same people, Solzhenitsyn, Nietzsche. You know, same Bible stories. I mean, every lecture, he's got like 3 lecture series, and that's it. And every time he talks, it's just more of the same, and a lot of it's just incomprehensible bilge. But otherwise, it's once you watch those 3 lecture series, that's great. The problem with
Hmm.
a lot of people who become famous is they get frozen in time
Right.
because they get overwhelmed with the fame and money and they don't want it to leave, and they're terrified of things drying up or
Hmm.
disappearing as quickly as they came, so they stop growing.
I don't
But
blame Jordan Peterson for kind of letting the fame crush him a little bit. Like he seems like a very
it's not a little
sensitive
bit. He's
dude.
killed. He's been killed by it.
He's been
I mean,
killed by. He's in rehab, I
rehab.
think.
He's crying on television. It's a fucking mess.
Christ.
This is the guy that you're looking up to for help. This is your self-help guru, the guy who can't fucking be on on TV without crying. Are you out of your mind?
That is pretty.
And the book is ludicrous, but no, he's a very bad role model. This 12 rules for life is like how to survive, how to get away with being mediocre and not getting crushed by life. Well, I'm not particularly interested in that. My fans aren't mediocre people. My fans are losers who want to be great. Not
Gotcha.
mediocre people who want to stay mediocre. I like gamers. I like all these people who have been left behind by society, particularly young men, and especially in some cases young white men, but not always. Some young women as well. The people that I like, that I try to help, are the people who have been left behind, and they're not striving for mediocrity. They're striving for greatness. And Jordan Peterson is like how to stay mediocre. This whole like don't lift your head above the parapet shit that he has midway through that book. It just makes my flesh crawl, because what are you telling people? You're telling people not to be great, not to strive for things. You're telling people stay in your lane.
Right.
That's what he's talking about with the hierarchy stuff. Jordan Peterson is all about staying in your lane and surviving, because he's a Marxist, because he thinks that the primary project of life is to
He's a
avoid
Marxist? Jeez.
Yeah. Well, in the sense, in the specific sense that Marxism is about alleviation of suffering, right? This is the basis of Marxism, really. It says life is miserable, terrible, painful hell, and here's how you get through it, and here's how you deal with the pain and the misery. Well, I don't happen to believe that, because I'm Christian. I have joy in my heart. I think the highest thing you can achieve is getting into heaven, but also living a good life, having a family, experiencing beautiful art that brings you closer to the divine. Jordan Peterson has never, as far as I can tell, ever shown any innocent, untrammeled joy. He's so fucking miserable.
Well, yeah, he does cry a lot. He's a
but
softie. I mean,
he's horribly sad. He's just a sad, he's just a sad person. I don't look up to people like that. I look up to different kind of people, and I think a different kind of people like me than like him. He's just miserable and sad, and I just look at him and I'm like, who are these people who are looking up to you? This is distressing to me.
interesting.
I know that I get it, because he's like a sweet uncle that you kind of want to hug, and he had some good in the 90s. He just hasn't had any since.
I like seeing him go up against people. He usually looks good in arguments. Like he kicks ass in like a lot of segments where with like feminists. Like, have you never felt you've never wanted to cry after one of those intense interviews that you've done?
No, of course I don't want to cry after an interview. What is wrong with him? I know what's wrong with him. He's permanently drugged up. He's on antidepressants all the time. That's why he wants to cry all the time, because he's on fucking drugs. He's on drugs all the time.
Yeah, that's true. He is on drugs.
So this, that, and the other. No, I don't want to cry after a conversation on television. I'm fine. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't go well. Like, get a grip.